Hi everyone, I'm Victoria and Spencer-Kibble from Vast Therapy, and I help professionals to cope with grief, reduce stress and anxiety whilst improving their sleep. And today's been a day where I've decided to do a little bit about child loss and baby loss within the grief and loss scope that I deal with, because 1 in 4 pregnancies will actually end up in a miscarriage. So I think it's a topic that we need to talk about. When people do lose a baby or a child, there isn't actually a word for that loss. Nobody should outlive their children. Hence there isn't a noun actually to describe the name that they would be called, which is really difficult. I am a widow. I was widowed at 37, and I don't particularly like that word. I think it's not a nice word to actually say, and when you have to write it down on a piece of paper for the first time, I cannot tell you how that feels. It's extraordinary, deepens your grief and your loss. So for me, to actually have a noun for a child loss or a baby loss would be extremely hard. I just kind of wanted to say on the scale that I've never lost a baby. I'm blessed not to have lost that, but I have suffered grief and loss in my life. The worst thing that you can kind of do is when loss happens is not be present for that person. They just want you to be there. They just want you to say, hello. There's no words, and there is a campaign at the moment about baby loss called No Words. There are no words that you can say to make it better, and all we really want when we've suffered a loss is just somebody to be there. Certainly for myself, people disappear, and I don't exactly know why that is. People who you've been friends with, family that have been in your life for many years, suddenly disappear. It's because they feel awkward, and none of us want you to feel awkward. We just want you to just come up to us. We're going to cry. Don't feel uncomfortable just because we cry. We need to let those tears roll, because when they don't roll, other organs will weep. It just manifests somewhere in our bodies. So please let us just cry. There are no words, so just be there, be present, don't disappear, just be that shoulder to cry on. The easiest words that you can say really for any kind of grief or loss is, I'm sorry for your loss. Just as simple as that. Don't cross the road to avoid the conversation. Don't, not ring. Just make that approach, because that's all we want you to do, is make that initial contact so we know somebody's there. You may not have been through it yourself, and that's okay. I don't particularly want anyone to go through what I went through, and I certainly would never want to go through a baby loss or a child loss, because there isn't anything worse. I can't think of anything worse than that personally. So for me is be present, be that shoulder to cry on, be that ear. So just listen to what they need to offload, and that includes the dads and the other siblings as well. Don't forget, these children need to be mentioned. Sometimes it's like little things like when they're not in photographs. Remember that there was a little being that was meant to be within a photograph, and on a Christmas card or a birthday card, just make a mental note. We've got so many apps to actually record everything for us now. Put their birthday in your phone and just message that person on that day, just so they feel that you've remembered, that they're not forgotten. And I think around children as well, especially the siblings, it's important to actually talk about the lost one as well, because they're still a part of their family and they're still a part of their life. And certainly for baby loss, obviously there won't be those months, weeks, days, years, whatever there may have been. But I certainly enjoy it when people tell me, and my children especially, stories about what my late husband was like, the funny stories. And where some of their isms come from. So as much as I'm extremely happily remarried, I've met a wonderful guy. Stuart is my blessing, heaven sent literally. He stands side by side with me, and he's actually said he would love people to actually talk about Carl and what he was like, because a lot of people obviously say that our son Ben does look the image to the point where he's a doppelganger of his father, and he is, without a doubt, but just 6 inches taller. But for me, it's just sometimes I stop and I look and I see it, and I see those isms, and that's really important to pass on to those children, those siblings, those little funny stories, those little past memories that you remember about them, because it's really important that we keep our lost ones alive and loved still, because if we shut them away and don't talk about them, that's when people can really suffer with grief, certainly. But for me, baby loss, yes, definitely. Don't cross the road and avoid that person they just want an ear to speak to. They just want somebody to listen to them, to know that somebody's there. You can't change the situation, but what you can do is give them phenomenal coping skills. And that's all they really want. So I just wanted to jump on here today to say the reason why I've done about child and baby loss today is because it's an important subject. Children are affected around the situation that's happening right now with COVID, not as in siblings passing, but certainly they're hearing about the word death and people losing their lives. So it's important we protect our children and make sure that we talk to them and they understand, because it's in the understanding that there's power, and we don't want them to cause anxiety around a stressful situation, which is where we're at right now. So I just wanted to jump on and talk about that really. So everyone just have a wonderful evening, and I'm Vicky Spencer-Kibble from Vast Therapy, and I do literally try and help all the time, anyone and everyone, but mostly help professionals to cope with grief and reduce their stress and anxiety, and also improve their sleep as well. So God bless and have a wonderful evening, guys. And remember, achieve to inspire and aspire to achieve.